My name is Dana Isabella, and most of you, many of you know me. Actually, I'll stand over here. Many of you know me anyway, because I've been around with tobacco control since 2001. But what we wanted to do, we met with Meg and invited her to our new office, and we wanted to come and share with you kind of what the status is and what's new in tobacco control here in Clinton, Franklin, and Essex counties. In your folder, you will see a contact sheet, and then attached to that, I attached what I did for our board, the Champlain Valley Family Center board, for our 2014 report, because it kind of talks about what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. And then I put some stat sheets, our newest stat sheets in here on, this is New York State stats. It's on tobacco prevalence with adults, tobacco prevalence with youth, and the tobacco is a leading cause of preventable death. So those are our three newest stat shots, which is a really nice feature that the Bureau of Tobacco Control puts together for us on a regular basis to share some of the statistics about tobacco. So what I'd like to share with you is what's changed for us. I guess I could say I've grown up since 2001. I started in 2001 in the reality check program. And until this year, that's been my primary focus. But with the Bureau of Tobacco Control, as they like to do, when they rolled the grants out this past time for 2014 to 2019, they really changed things up for us. Previously, you had the Adirondack Tobacco Free Network, the ATFN, and you had Reality Check. And we covered the Tri-County area. Well, they put the two grants together in one. And there's a lot of reasoning behind that, and very much, in my opinion, some very good positive strategic reasoning for that, in that we work hand in hand, we work together very, very closely. So when they awarded the grants last May, to start on July 1st, we were awarded, the Champlain Valley Family Center was awarded the Advancing Tobacco-Free Communities Grant, thus the birth of Tobacco-Free Clinton, Franklin, Essex, and Reality Check. That's the one thing that they were really, really strong about, which I was super glad about, was that they kept Reality Check a very strong component of the tobacco control program in New York State. Because, you know, in all reality, this is what we're doing it for. This is about creating the tobacco-free generation. This is about finishing the tobacco issues in our culture, in our communities. And so if we don't have youth at the table, and we aren't doing this and having them be part of the voice, then, you know, we're really just a bunch of adults making decisions and, you know, not really engaging the young people. So they kept the young people as part of this, and I'm thrilled. So you'll see in that board report that what the changes have happened, which is exciting, is that our budget grew. We're funded for 5 years at $325,000 a year, so that's $6.125 million, or 1.625 million over the 5 years, which is really great for this area to have that size of a grant. It meant that as much as I'd like to say that, you know, my cape and my tights work, most of the time they don't. I couldn't do this anymore by myself. And so there's now a staff of 3. Who we're missing tonight is Kim Cummins, who's taken over for me, and she is our Reality Check program coordinator. And then we recently hired Amanda Morpurgo, formerly, some of you know her as Amanda Dagley from Wiry. she's our community engagement side, so that between Reality Check and the community engagement working together to create communities that are supportive of tobacco policies that protect our young people and create healthy places for us to live, work, and play. And then the only thing for me that changed is that now I have this wonderful staff. I switched my title to director because the state required that, and that sounds like thunder. And you know, but I'm still very, very much hands-on in the field. And the 4 initiatives that we work on are smoke-free housing. You know, for example, the town of Harrietstown and the village of Malone, their housing authorities, both now have smoke-free policies within their housing authorities. Well, Harrietstown has had it for 5 years. And then Village of Malone just enacted theirs on April 1st. So, you know, we'll be working hopefully with some of the housing authorities throughout Clinton County and in Essex County at looking at smoke-free housing policies. I'm working with Clinton on their going tobacco. Well, they are somewhat tobacco-free. They're tightening up their tobacco-free policy, strengthening it, and implementing it in June of 2016. And then we also, so that's our smoke-free housing and our tobacco-free outdoors, which you all have worked with the ATFM and the Reality Check on TFO. And we can continue to work with you on that. Whether that is you need signage, if you find that, you know, you have new trails, like I know you're doing new stuff out in Katyville. If you need new signage for your trails, you know, we can work on that. If you'd like to work on connecting trails between other municipalities, such as the city of Plattsburgh, whatever, we can help with that kind of, like the whole Finger Lakes trail system right now is all going tobacco-free. And so that encompasses, I think, oh my God, 10 or 12 counties, and all of the programs, tobacco control programs, are getting involved with helping provide some assistance and signage. Also support through education and that work. So tobacco-free outdoors, smoke-free housing, smoke-free media, which is primarily our youth focus, that's still working on that old R rating for smoking in movies, that all youth-rated films should be smoke-free. And actually, we're getting really close. I'm starting to work on having an event in New York City next spring, and I'm a little concerned with planning this event because we're going there to go back to the parent companies, Warner Brothers, Viacom, Sony, that are in Manhattan, and have conversations with them. But we might be on the verge of the R rating really soon. So it's hard to be planning something a year out and then knowing, like, oh gosh, where do we have to switch gears. Our kids actually just came back from New York. Amanda, it was her training experience where we had 5 youth with Kim and Amanda, went to the Philip Morris International shareholder meeting last week. 2 of them had proxies to go in and speak on the floor. The rest were out in Manhattan with Jeff the Lung.
I was Jeff the Lung.
At one point she was, yeah, which is a John Oliver. He created Jeff the Lung, and it became this international crazy thing. And they actually got national attention because of having Jeff the Lung with them last week. But they all went to New York. And so we're kind of thinking next year we might put PMI together with smoke-free movies and do something. And then our last initiative that we are working on, point of sale, how could I forget? And that's the one that there's still so much work to be done. There is nobody yet in our neck of the woods that we're there yet with getting to a place. And that's kind of where we'd like to have an opportunity at some time to sit down with a work group or whatever to really kind of talk about point of sale. We're doing observations right now, so we'll have pictures that the youth have been taking along with data that we've collected over the last 2 to 3 years of what we're seeing in the retail location. How can we make that retail location not as inviting to youth when it comes to cigarettes or to people who are trying to stop smoking? It's the highest trigger point area. There's lots of solutions under point of sale. There are a number of municipalities across New York State that have now got licensing regulations for point of sale, whether it be that the license, you can't have a tobacco license within 1,000 feet of a school. You know, when we're in rural areas, that gets to be, you know, that doesn't work like it does in Binghamton or in other Newburgh, but there are things that we can do here. Tobacco-free pharmacies is one of the big areas that we're going to be looking at here also. So there's lots of work to be done, and that's, you know, we wanted you to know that we haven't gone away. We were off for about 4 to 6 months, 4 months off, and then 2 months trying to get our feet back on ground. And that, you know, we're really excited about the direction that tobacco control has taken in this area. You know, the other thing that I wanted to mention to you too with your TFO policies is to think about many municipalities now are adding to their TFO policies, are going back in now and adding e-cigarettes into them. And that might be something that we might want to look at your policy, because I think it's probably 3 or 4 years old at this point. And look at it and revise it to include e-cigarettes, which we're actually finding that there's a lot of e-cigarette litter that I didn't even realize. There's a lot of, because of the disposable e-cigarettes, a lot of litter associated with them. So, you know, that's another area that we'd like to explore.
Is that another introductory area for smoking?
Oh gosh, yes.
Do you have signage that's covering that now? I mean, just because from an educational standpoint, if you go into a park and it says tobacco free, some people are making that direct connection to the e-cigarette. Have you started to design signs that capture that essence as well?
We are designing it. If you add it to your policy, if it's a part of your policy, we will redo the signs for you and have new signs that include e-cigarettes. But we have both. And I'm in the process, I'll be ordering signs soon. But I'll order enough that we'll have for a while signage available. So, you know, we've made, you know, in my 14 to 15 years in tobacco control, we've made incredible strides. Incredible strides. I mean, I think about when I came to this in 2001, it was right after the Master Settlement Agreement. The youth tobacco rate was around 32% in New York State at that point. It's now under 10%, not here locally, but statewide it is. And, you know, we've really, with clean indoor air and with the tobacco taxes increasing, we've been able to make a lot of headway. We have a lot more to do though. And all it takes is us backing off a little bit, not being there to create that tobacco-free environment when the tobacco industry kind of slides right in and increases what they're doing in your area.
The stats on the percent of current smokers among middle and high school students really reflect what you're saying. To me, that's an amazing drop.
Isn't it?
It's really encouraging to see the near zero of junior high students, and then the gap between junior high and high school is much closer than it was in 2000, which leads you to believe if you're educating the middle school students, that probably contributes to the reduction of number of smokers in high school. So, I mean, this can only go one direction, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And actually, then if you take that to the adult one, you know, the fact that reality check has been, because this really correlates, you go back to 2000 on this, reality check started in 2001. And as much as I would love to say this is all about reality check, you know, I think it's had a huge impact in New York State with our young people. But if you also look at the adult prevalence, it has dropped tremendously. So as our youth numbers are dropping, as we look out as they become adults, our adult numbers are dropping too. I mean, we are at a phenomenal place in New York State where the tobacco rate in New York State is 16.6%. That's unheard of.
It would appear the efforts and the use of the funds has truly had some impact. And is anybody drawing some correlation to health costs?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, they are. We're still seeing very high health costs because what you see now is what was going on 20 years ago. You know, and so you don't see the return on investment. You will probably in the next 10 years see that drop happening, which is incredible because as New York State taxpayers, we invest a lot in tobacco disease. And I'm not even going to talk about just the lost work and lost productivity. It's the statistic that has been out there, and this has not dropped in a couple of years, is that for every pack of cigarettes sold, New York State has to set aside $10.87 to cover the cost of tobacco-related illness. So, you know, you collect $4.35 in tax, but you have to spend $10.87, you know, so there's the gap is not filled yet at all. But as those numbers drop,
as this generation gets into some more senior years, you should see it.
Well, and our concerns, you know, there's some incredible concerns on the forefront. One is the e-cigarette issue, which I'll have to say, you know, we're aware of. I read, I spend a lot of time investigating it. I do a lot of webinars about it. I've been on with the FDA and you know, the Legacy Foundation and University of California at San Francisco. I've been on a number of discussions about e-cigarettes. We know that they're a problem, and we know that they're a problem for our young people. And the other concern that I have is the 18 to 25-year-old population. The one thing that I've been doing this for a long time, as you know, Bernie, I mean, forever. And finally, about 2 years ago, I connected the dots that, you know, only 1% of smokers started over the age of 25. Only 1%. This is not an adult problem. I mean, I've always known that. We've always used the statistic, 90% of smokers start over the age of 18, but when I really thought about, oh my God, only 1% start over the age of 25. So we've got the 90% that are under age of 18 and then the 9% that are in the 18 to 25-year-old population. I'm a little afraid that we're going to see that 18 to 25-year-old population growing a little bit, especially with the onset of e-cigarettes.
It's definitely growing because of that.
Yeah, so I think the more that we can do in our communities to denormalize the use of, whether it's e-cigarettes or tobacco products, the better off our communities are. And again, it is what our kids see. It's when they're this little and coming up as to what they see and what's normal. So that's kind of where we're moving forward.
How do you target I mean, the highest rate is among the poorest people. Obviously, it's the most money out of their pocket. They don't eat the right foods. They don't have the rent. They move from place to place, live in pretty bad conditions many times. How do you address that for the e-cigarette and smoke?
Well, that is one of our primary focuses, is low SES population and the behavioral health, the mentally ill and addicted populations. So we're looking at those populations. It is difficult. One of the ways that we do when we talk about point of sale is the one, for instance, Providence, Rhode Island does not allow couponing anymore. As a municipality, that was their solution, one of their solutions. They've had more since then. But you know, and that's one that the tobacco industry fought Providence on. Providence stood up and said, fight us, and they won. And so there's no couponing, no discounting, because that's all aimed at our low income, low education populations, is the discounting and the, you can see it. When you go around, if you went and did some of these observations with us, and you go to a store near a housing authority, and you go to a store up near Prospect Avenue, I'm going to take the same chain, their advertising is vastly different. Vastly different. Their couponing is very different. So, you know, it's all, as non-smokers, we don't see it. You know, we just don't. I have to force myself to see it most of the time.
One of the things that I'm concerned about is non-smoker. I stopped smoking in 1965. I'm appalled by the number of media stars that smoke. And these are people, in many instances, who proclaim that they are non-smokers. But when they're making a movie, they're smoking.
Yeah.
And you know, excuse me, you know darn well they're getting paid to smoke that cigarette.
They're getting something.
Oh, there's no question they're getting paid. They're getting paid to, you know, to smoke that cigarette. And it's a throwback to, I mean, that was, you know, when I was a youngster, you know, it was, you were supposed to look suave or look more adult or look whatever because you smoke. Okay, and that's what I see with that. And you know, I'm appalled by it, and I keep wondering when I'm going to see a more organized attack on that.
Well, you know, I will have to say there has been a very organized, I mean, we even have the CDC as part of it at this point. The CDC does a report on smoking in movies,
Yeah.
now 2 years in a row. You get the CDC on board, you know, you pretty much have struck gold. But, you know, it is these parent companies, that's where, you know, we've learned over the years, it doesn't work to talk to the actors, it doesn't work to talk to the MPAA, it really is the parent companies. And it's getting them to take some responsibility. I was just showing Amanda and Kim this morning, there's a new Jack Black movie that was released with, I can't think of the other guy's name. And in the trailer for the movie, the other actor, Jack Black and him are standing, you know, arm in arm, and he's smoking a cigarette. Now, in the photo that they released out to the public, they had photoshopped it and took the cigarette out of his mouth and put a toothpick. You know, they know what they're doing. They know that people are paying attention and onto them, and we just need to keep the pressure on Hollywood. And you know, I'm really glad because I think we are getting to a tipping point. You know, Disney last year did an amazing...
We have to stop the classic movies, the movie channel.
I know.
No Bogart?
Well, do you know, in India, I was asked to speak at a forum in Toronto in February. That's a long train ride, by the way, to Toronto in February. But I was asked to speak at a forum there, and one of the other speakers came from India. And in India, if there is any smoking on the screen, right in the movie, as the movie's going on, a disclaimer comes up across the bottom of the movie and says that, you know, blah, 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 you know, the health kind of warning or whatever, but that's what they're doing in India. There's all kinds of things that we can do.
You know, I think Marnie went into that thing where, you know, you had to have the pack cigarette and the t-shirt here and, you know, the cigarette behind here. Yeah, probably that's what it was.
So I like talking about the Hollywood thing. I know that impacts us, but what can we do here more locally? I'm interested in the tobacco-free pharmacies.
Yeah.
How do we put pressure on them?
Well, I think one of the first things that we do is we sit down and really look at that issue of tobacco-free pharmacies. And it's not so much you put the pressure on the pharmacy, it's what happens is like a municipality, for instance, the County of Albany has been trying to do this for a few years, and they come to real close and then they move over here a little bit, but basically coming up with, like Massachusetts, because they're right across the border, all of Massachusetts has, you can't sell tobacco in pharmacies. You just can't sell it. You could do, you don't display it, you could do whatever, but there are ways with pharmacies, which, you know, if individually they would take the lead of CVS.
Right.
And just recognize, you know, we're healthcare facilities. I can go there to get an immunization. I shouldn't be, at the same time when I'm paying, bombarded by tobacco marketing. So there are many different options that we can look at with pharmacies. But really, like in Massachusetts, that all started at a municipal level. And that's kind of what New York State does. We start at a municipal level until there's enough groundswell that possibly we can do something as a state. And you know, that's how Clean Indoor happened.
What would be the impact if, say, the town of Plattsburgh said that employees couldn't be smokers?
Smokers on ground, or we wouldn't hire smokers?
You wouldn't hire smokers.
Right.
Sarasota, Florida did that.
It seemed to me quite a disincentive if you knew, say, I know the Cleveland Clinic, you can't smoke and work there.
Right.
How do you police it?
I don't know exactly. I mean, would you get everybody? But anytime you try, if you look for a perfect solution, you don't get any solution.
Of course.
So maybe if you have sign, we will not hire a smoker.
Is that a tobacco smoker?
Yeah.
Not a pot smoker.
Well,
That's why the kids aren't smoking, they're smoking pot instead of tobacco these days, so hello.
Insurance is great.
I mean, the more disincentive
Right.
you have, I think it's helpful.
There are municipalities, I know, I just remember about 5 years ago, Sarasota, Florida, enacted they would not hire smokers.
Yeah.
So, and I think they got in cahoots with their, I don't know if cahoots is the right word, but they worked with their insurance, who was providing their insurance, and it was strongly a collaboration between their insurance company and them as an.
It is great progress, though. I mean, a few of us can probably still remember the smoking area on the back of the plane.
Yeah.
That really helped. Waiting in the waiting area on the floor in the hospital for a report from the surgeon while everybody was smoking.
Yep.
I mean, it really has made incredible progress. And again, I just look at those stats with the young people, and it's phenomenal. I agree with Debbie. There's probably a graph that we don't want to see about the use of hard drugs.
Oh.
And now pot is being
probably-
legalized and everybody's thinking about it and you know, they're sucking that smoke in.
And celebrating it.
You betcha.
You know,
They are.
and
They are.
you know, it'll be interesting, not that I want to get off on the whole marijuana thing because I'm not funded to
You'll be
do
inundated.
marijuana, but it'll be interesting to see when there's an industry behind it, because that's the thing, you know, that's the difference. You know, we have a multi-billion-dollar industry that's marketing a product and creating advertising and marketing to get their next customer, which they know are young people, and they're flying above like, oh no, we're not doing that. Well, come on. You know, they own all the e-cigarette companies, and it's all candy flavored, and this is where we're going, and this is where we've been. And I think that as much as we've made, like Bernie said, we've made incredible progress. We still have almost 1 in 10 kids, well here in our area it's higher than that, that's a state average, but that are daily smokers. So we still have young people who are going to be chained to an addiction. And part of what the Surgeon General called out in the report last year, the 2014 Surgeon General report, was that this is the time. We don't want, between 1964 and 2014, that 50 years between the two Surgeon General's reports, 20 million people died of tobacco-related illnesses in the United States. And we don't want another 20 million. And the Surgeon General really was I couldn't believe watching it, how strongly the message was, it's time for a tobacco-free generation. It's time to finish this. It's time to...
The ads that were on, and say were because it's dawning on me I see a lot less of them just a few months ago. Very explicit, showing the impacts and many times, there was one in particular showed this young woman who was a cheerleader or something, was just attractive, full of life, energized, and had the trait, and it was being criticized for being too graphic, but that's what I want my kids to see. Are we seeing a little less of that because somebody's pulled it or told
That really just depends, because those are state-run ads, and as you know, with working with New York State, that there is this million hoops that you jump through and over and under. It's this incredible obstacle course that you do to get things run. But it's funny because I stopped, part of in that report with one of the things that's changed is that we've had to move our office to 62 Brinkerhoff because we outgrew, there was no more space for us at the family center. So we're still a family center program, but we're off site now. And I stopped at the office today to fax something, and I heard the Sandy ad out on the television in the waiting room, and she's an older woman who with the trach, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a tobacco ad out there, isn't it? And they're like, yup. So it's
powerful stuff.
It's very powerful, and we find, I could bring you quit line numbers or send you quit line numbers. Now that we're back in business and that we're fully staffed, we'll be sending you as much information as we can. But our quit line numbers go way up when those ads are running, and then they come down, and then they go way up when they're running. So
well, I can verify those. Both my aunt and uncle had that tremendous. They smoked all their lives, and they were really bad shape, and seeing on everything else. It was terrible to visit them and see the condition they were in, and their difficulty breathing and everything else, and you could see the deterioration. So those things aren't far from the truth.
It's a horrible way.
Look at that.
A couple items. What type of succession smoking programs do you more formally offer?
There are very few actual cessation programs, because that is when our budget was dropped from 85 million to 35 million. At the state level, that's one of the things that really had to go. What is formerly known as the cessation centers now are referred to as health systems for a Healthy New York, which Margot Gold in Saranac Lake with the Healthy Heart Network does. They are working more at the level with doctors, hospitals, dentists, in how are we treating, how are we intervening and asking the questions, and what are we providing. And they are actually training people that are working in doctors' offices to do some cessation. I do a little that the state doesn't really like. I go to Twin Oaks Halfway House and do some stop smoking groups with them to talk to them about it.
Do you find a lot of health insurances are providing the support for it?
Yes.
Okay.
There is more and more now as far as nicotine replacement therapy. There's great too online resources if somebody has online, like Become an X and the New York State Quit Line both have online support. They have call-in support. They buddy people up. I read an article about a woman on Become an X who, from the East Coast, who buddied up and had a quit date with a woman on the West Coast, and they quit together, but they communicated. There's a lot of that. We've had to get smarter with less money.
Well, the reason I'm asking some of these questions is there's certainly an ongoing educational component to what you do. That's really your driving force. Meg and I have been working with Notify It and our rec program and a local theater company that we're launching this summer, a program called Fresh Ear Theater. And it certainly, I think, could potentially tie into that concept of fresh air is not just to get outdoors and enjoy, the good weather. It's also being more informed about your environment, smoke-free. So there may be some opportunity to do some collaboration with that.
It's like even Meg said, you want to be part of the feeding program this summer, and we said, yeah. So, if there's things like that we can help with, by all means. Our young people are really
How successful were the programs, the cessation programs?
Cessation, that's part of the reason. They're not terribly successful.
I worked on that when I was working in prison. One of my jobs was to work with also the inmates and with the staff on smoking cessation. And I conducted a number of sessions, a few weeks of each one. It was really difficult. I think one person actually ended up quitting. Not the time that I did it, but the next time he tried. So it's really hard to get rid of it.
So that's why unfortunately, part of the resources, our resources, as stretched as they are going into trying to drop these numbers so that we don't have those that we have out here to help with. Because as we know, stopping smoking is very hard. It's possible. It is possible for anybody. And I live with a smoker, and he has tried, at least 4 times since he's been with me, to stop smoking. It's miserable, it's horrible, it's awful. It's, I work with treatment groups at the Family Center who have been clean of heroin, of methamphetamines, of alcohol, and cannot stop smoking. But they can. It's all about the right frame of mind, nicotine replacement, patience, the support, and it's about, recognizing how to deal with failure. What do you learn from the failure of stopping this time is what's going to help you the next time. And so that's kind of what we talk about.
Is cigarette tax still going to fund education in the state of New York?
The tobacco excise tax goes into the general fund. So the tobacco excise tax is $4.35, the state tax. 60 cents of that is federal. The rest is here, that $3.75, whatever is here in New York State.
So there's
that goes into the general fund.
Push and pull going on here.
Well, yeah, if they would give a nickel of that to tobacco control, we'd be funded at the CDC levels, and we've been able to provide all of what.
But the state is.
Well, we're in a,
Well,
tough times.
Yeah.
It's tough times, and like I just said to you, when you have to set aside more than $10 per pack just for the healthcare costs, then that $3.75 doesn't go very far. So, I'm not going to disparage New York State. I think that the fact that we still in New York State have a comprehensive tobacco control program is incredible. And I thank our legislators for that on an ongoing basis. Do we need more? Yes. There's lots we could do with more, but there's lots of states that don't even have tobacco control anymore.
Especially Kentucky. Thank you very much, both of you, for the update, the information, the documentation. We're glad you're back.
Yeah.
And look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put Mel in touch with you, so you guys can be part of the lunch program.
Yes.
Yes.
And the fresh air program, and if you do want to look at your TFO policy and
I made a note. We will do that.
e-cigarettes, then just let me know.
So all we would be doing to change that would be including the e-cigarette?
Yeah, your
A
policies.
business card, something I can, is
It's
it in there?
Yeah,
Your, all our
everything's on
contact information is on the bottom side of
this one
yeah.
here, it's all right there.
Because we haven't had a chance to have our cards made
I'll
up yet.
email to you current policy, just give me some feedback.
All right, super.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the minutes. As always, please look them over. If you see anything, let us know as soon as possible. We have monthly reports are next as per the usual. I have another set for you, water, wastewater. Please take one, pass the rest along.
On the incident this week, when these coolant, I guess the line broke, is that during the coolant line? Are those inspected? Maybe we should check on that.
Yeah, I'll check on that. I don't know the answer to the question, obviously, but we will find out. Next, we have the volunteer fire and ambulance first responder leave time item. As we discussed earlier, I will infuse the suggestions that were made. I think they're great ones. Kind of ratchets it down a bit.
Can I just get that report?
Sure.
The historian is here till when?
June 31.
June 31, okay, because it looks like he's getting other municipalities involved and working together to use historical assets in the context of regional attraction. Based on what his report was from when he came back from the last, when he went to the Association of New York State Historians in Corning. So I think maybe that's something we should look on. And I was wondering if anybody had made any overtures to anything else about that?
A couple of names have been brought to my attention that I'll share at a later date. You do want to move on that before too long. Volunteer fire ambulance, as I mentioned, will infuse the suggestions. Otherwise, I believe that's what we've been looking at for a while. Route 9.
You are going to look into what he was suggesting, the difference between chiefs and other regular ones?
Yep. Well, we aren't discriminating if you're a chief or a regular volunteer. I mean, in our instance, where we currently have only chiefs, that could change. The issue is making sure that we have individuals who legitimately qualify versus they're a social volunteer as opposed to a working volunteer. Next is the pump station generator. I don't know if anybody has any further thoughts, comments on that. It's just a continuation of. The one following is the CDBG micro enterprise grant. This one will actually set a public hearing for June 1. It's a regular board meeting. We've had our public hearings at those before. This will be a little bit different. I think what you'll see both with this one and this grant is this will be an opportunity for individuals who are interested in becoming applicants for a micro enterprise grant to come get information and share what their proposals might be.
Am I correct when I read that? Is it limited to, or will there be a priority given to low-income applicants?
Some of them have to be, but it's not exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
part of the CDBG grant requirement. We've had instances before where the small business owner was a low to moderate income, and they could qualify themselves as one of the new employees. But it will be a little different format. We'll do that first, then go to our regular meeting to enable us. Part of that is the process of in the grant submission, we can document what the community's interests are, what some of the potential projects might be if we're able to become funded. And obviously, if nobody shows, nobody cares, why are you bothered?
We actually, we had a pretty strong response.
Very
We did that,
Yeah, we had a room full of people. I think we cut it down to about half when they found out they had to do 30 hours of pay time in class to build a business plan. But it's part of the process, part of the experience. They will learn. We've got a revised phase 3 actually, which is the next one. You want to substitute, which is
This is the last phase for the sewer line, okay?
to the best of my knowledge and memory, yes, it is, Tom.
No, I
Well-
don't actually think it is.
Really?
Really.
Well, when we originally did it, it was 3 phases, but
Yeah.
I think.
Is this the last? Well, go ahead.
There's actually 5 phases.
I'm fine, okay.
Yeah, Marty, that's correct.
I just can't count, sorry.
Yeah, we just talked about that today.
Yeah.
So this is not the last.
Well, they have a new committee and they were able to,
So you're able to push it further? Oh, I see.
okay?
So is this going outside of the original site that we were working on?
No,
No,
Okay.
they're just,
I wish I had the map.
Are we doing laterals?
they're trying to bite it, they're trying to take measured bites out of the
Mhm.
project, if you will, okay? Like you notice on this one, the amounts, it's 250,000,
Mhm.
okay? And they're doing this with town funds.
So Meg, what's the projection for the,
I wish I had the map that he gave us today. I don't have the details of it, but I can email you.
Will the 5 phases complete all of the lines
No,
town line?
no, there'll be one more out on the base,
And then that's,
we hit the worst ones, right?
as far as I know.
yeah.
Because I remember there was some that if we didn't put that lining in right away, they were gonna have to dig the whole thing up and replace everything.
You're right. And those have been tackled and done, and those were the big cost items.
And the other thing was, we're gonna close one of the lift stations and combine it.
Yeah, and that's on the agenda for, I think, a capital project.
Okay, so that's separate from these spaces, because it's just a line.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're getting there.
Yes.
It's really good. Committees meeting with department heads and
It's really
so on. We can look to you in a town meeting because you've got another layer of information about the issue.
I just sent Scott an email thanking him for getting us.
You managed to grab all those maps back.
No, I took one.
Oh, you did get
Yeah.
one, all right.
It's in my file.
I didn't
I should
get
have
one.
brought it.
That's good. Good stuff. The next draft is reporting and standard work day. This is a regular documentation. The only one I believe we have in here that I've noticed anyway is the town clerk. And if you dig further through, we see other elected officials indicated.
We don't have to do a report, do we?
That's the calendar that you submit if you are interested in the retirement benefit.
I don't have to fill that out then.
Depends if you are interested in the retirement benefit. I mean,
Can you get them? So he's collecting?
How can we get retirement benefit? We're already getting retirement.
I
I already retired.
I'm not a good source of information for that because,
Yeah. Well, anyway, as I understood it from the last time I went down to the Association of Towns, you didn't have to you didn't have to fill one of these out
yep.
unless you were just recently elected.
And,
Unfortunately, if I remember Rob was to get elected, I have to fill it out next year, I think.
and whether you can get it or not, if you already,
They told
me yes, they told me no.
They told yes, but they told me I had to fill them out and whether you got it.
this one that it was saying that you're doing 6 hours a day, so what are your typical hours in the office?
From 10 to 4.
Okay, and that will continue?
Yeah, and since, when they changed for my retirement benefits, that's the reason I did it.
Okay. And we have a request to attend the Northeast Planning Conference. Without going into details, great details at this time, I reviewed the conference, certainly see some value. I had a conversation with Mr. Von Bargen today, and I indicated to him that just my opinion, I might be supportive of Trevor going, but I wanted him to remain back and remain in the office. It's a busy time. It's a kind of an exciting conference. It's part of the association's conference as opposed to a very focused training session. I just don't think we can afford to have them both be out. If anybody's going to go, I think it should be Mr. Cole, who's more likely to benefit from it, has never experienced that level of conference. So I just say, look it over carefully.
Isn't this?
Well, I would agree with you, and I think Trevor would be the appropriate person to go.
This is a regional conference that's in 9 states. It's not usually great as close as Saratoga. And it seems to me an opportune time to be able to allow our
I think it is, but I don't think we can afford to send the whole staff. Very busy time in the planning office with projects that need to get going, a short construction season. Trevor is an investment of the future for us, and he can bring it back at the most. I mean, I feel pretty good about him, but I would not support both of them at all.
You can have Michelle here by herself?
What's that?
You can have Michelle here by herself?
You could just send Michelle and have her take notes.
Actually,
Report back.
come back and do a presentation.
Yeah.
Michelle?
She's pretty good at that stuff.
Shall we send her instead?
Well, we can talk more later, but at this time, I'm just asking to think about if we send one of the two, it should be Trevor.
Well, but this has to be passed this next time, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
In order to make the...
I personally don't support both of our folks going.
We've got a lot of projects going. Number one, a lot of activity, grant work, but tomorrow could be 3 projects that have been underway for months. They decided to pull the trigger. They want to get going, and if they can't open their doors in a timely fashion, I mean, not for this one. If it were a much more focused training, if they hadn't just been back from one. And anyway, I've shared that with him. He understands it.
It's 2 days, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, so we can chat more on that a little later. I want to share with you.
Saratoga, not far around.
Any other, I know we had the benefit of hearing from our water committee throughout the evening. Anyone else have any other reports, comments, committee work, interest, updates?
What is the board's opinion of having committee reports?
I put that in the agenda at some point in the past. We had some committees that were doing a report. We had some that weren't meeting. I've left it in the agenda because I'm a little obstinate and defiant, and it makes sure that we acknowledge there are committees and they should be meeting. So anytime a committee has a formal report, I'd be glad to make it part of the archive. That's my opinion.
If you're interested in us, I can laying the main.
Did you get what?
Laying the main.
Laying the main.
Yeah.
Good.
I noticed some digging actually by hand.
From Cumberland Head Corners, they started along the highway
That's good.
today.
Good.
Yay. Beginning of a long process.
And I noticed that some article I got was the Wall Street bonuses, just the Wall Street bonuses, were almost about twice as much as all the workers on minimum wage in the United States, just in case somebody didn't think I know.
That's some value we did it now.
Not the crony capitalism to the time.
Okay, without any further ado, it's 8:30, we are adjourned for this board work session.